Though we lived only a few hours from the Gulf Coast of Mexico in the 80s and 90s, it was often just too far to go to the beach, so sometimes we would just go spend the day at the closest lake, La Presa de la Boca, less than an hour away from our home in Cadereyta. This beautiful lake was situated at the foot of the Sierra Madre Mountains of northern Mexico and had easy access to the many rocky beaches all around it. Though not exactly a tourist spot, it did have a few little fish shacks along the shore. This lake is actually a man-made reservoir, and people did go fishing there as well, since they stocked the lake with fish. There was even a rumor that someone had released piranha fish into the lake, who would strip your bones clean if you ventured into the water. But local kids would go swimming there without so much as a nibble. Another interesting feature of this lake was the large number of cows who grazed along its rocky shores. It was quite an unusual experience to be sunbathing on a sunny afternoon while a herd of cows wandered over to look for some grass and left a few cow patties behind. It was always a good idea to watch your step. On one sunny afternoon, I was walking through the cactus and scrub brush toward the beach and saw a few cows grazing nearby. Then I froze in my tracks. The enormous beast 10 feet in front of me was no cow. He was a bull and was looking right at me. I didn't move a muscle. He lowered his head, his horns were very pointy. He did the classic snort and pawed the ground with his front hoof like he was getting ready to charge and impale me on those horns. I was wide-eyed and terrified. My mind raced. I had been to a few bullfights in town and seen how it's done, but I was no matador, even though I had a colorful beach towel over my shoulders. I was also wearing flip-flops. I could never outrun or outmaneuver this massive animal, so I just didn't do anything. I froze like a statue. Sweat was dripping off my nose. He continued snorting menacingly. I continued not moving a muscle. I don't know how much time went by, but it seemed like a long time. Finally, this big black bull lifted his head and turned to look off toward the right. Then he went over to consort with some lovely cows grazing down by the water. I very slowly and quietly backed up and headed down a different path, on the other side of a flimsy barbed wire fence. I found a nice, not too rocky spot, dumped my stuff and took a refreshing plunge in the lake, piranhas and all. I grew up in South Jersey, and my dad and I bought my Aunt Florence's old boat, a 1960s Crestliner, with an ancient 35 horsepower Johnson outboard for $300. We spent months fixing and restoring that old boat and trailer, and we got many years of fun out of it on the rivers, lakes, and bays of South Jersey. Then we traded up to a bigger boat with an 85 horsepower engine, which we also enjoyed for many years growing up. Water skiing, boating, and fishing. On one trip back home to New Jersey, I picked up the boat and towed it all the way back down to Mexico, where we used it out on the lake. Our close friends from Texas, the Petersons, came down to visit for a few days, and we went out to the lake to go skiing and have some fun on the water. I don't remember how long we were actually water skiing, but it was a beautiful day and the boat was running great, until it wasn't. The engine just died. We still had plenty of gas, but it would not start up again. We tried everything, but had no success. We were dead in the water in the middle of this huge lake. No one was going to come to our rescue. We had no paddles, so Tom and I jumped in and started swimming, pushing the boat with our wives and children on board. A few hours later, we made it to shore, exhausted and disappointed, but thankful for the memorable time we shared as friends. I believe that was actually the last time we used that old boat. A local jeweler in town was always bugging me to sell him the boat, even after the engine quit, so I finally relented and sold it to him for next to nothing, and he fixed it up and got a few more years of fun out of it. Of course, I always regretted selling it, but am thankful for the fun we had while it lasted. When we moved to Guadalajara later, we were very close to Mexico's largest lake, Lake Chapala, located just an hour south of the city. Picturesque little towns and villages all around its shoreline. The town of Ajijic is a major retirement destination for folks from the US and other countries with lots of artist types there. The lake has several interesting towns and villages along its shores and several amazing islands which we have enjoyed exploring many times. Guadalajara is also just a few hours from a beautiful crater lake called Santa Maria del Oro. Almost perfectly round, it is an oasis, a blue jewel in the surrounding rugged landscape. We had been to the lake a few times, camping and swimming, jumping off the rocks and swinging out over the water on rope swings. It was always a special, refreshing treat to go to Santa Maria. I had a crazy notion to try something a little different there for a future visit, but it was going to take some preparation. I began gathering some materials: plywood, fasteners, and lots of square 20-liter plastic jugs, mostly from the industrial food industry. I put these all together in my garage to make a modular 8 by 16-foot raft. It was big enough to pitch a big tent on, and even have a grill and chairs and supplies on board. We called it our houseboat. We loaded it into a trailer and headed to Santa Maria. We reassembled the craft by the shore, launched and loaded all our gear, and paddled out to the middle of the lake. The crew included my son Joey, my son-in-law Javier, another family friend Tavo, and myself. The four of us camped for 5 days out on the water, fishing, swimming, exploring, snorkeling, and cooking. We enjoyed plenty of fish tacos, baked pizza, and grilled quesadillas. We also had my homemade canoe tied up along the side of the houseboat in case we needed to make a quick run to the little store on the shore for supplies. It was an aquatic camping adventure like none other. There is something magical about the lakes in Mexico, with so many more to discover and enjoy. So stay tuned for more lake stories. Thank you so much for listening to this true story from Memoirs of Mexico. If you enjoyed this story, or if it was a blessing to you, please feel free to like and subscribe to my channel. That would be a blessing to me. I upload a new true story every day. If you like to read, you can also order Memoirs of Mexico in paperback or ebook on Amazon.com. There's a link in the description. Thanks again for listening.